85% of roofing companies fail within the first 2 years, which is like the success rate of a restaurant, basically. And 96% of them fail within the first 5 years. In our last episode, we picked a name. It was The Shingle Life.
The Shingle Life.
So now we can start with, welcome back to The Shingle Life with Brenna and Jess. Today we're going to be talking about you get what you pay for.
Mm-hmm. Period.
But before we get into that, we're going to talk about what it's like when you overhear your coworker talking with their significant other on the phone. And this came up because just a minute ago you were talking to your husband and you said,
"Why are you using your work voice on me?"
I don't know why you're using your work voice on me. Yes.
He says, so like when Josh uses like talks at work, which I would like to add, I have no idea what he does all day.
Okay, fair.
Which is fair because he has no idea what I do.
We learned that he also did not know what you did all day.
I could not begin to do his job. Period.
I mean, my husband is an engineer. There is no freaking way I will ever do his job.
I mean, he tries so hard to tell me what he does during the day, and I just don't know. But he says a lot. He says copy a lot.
Copy?
Yeah, like which is what he said to me. He was like, because we were talking about going to pick up our taxes. Our taxes are ready.
Well, that's a very serious situation.
Yeah. And since I was planning on not working today, I was like, like I had originally planned to pick them up.
Right, but then you decided the podcast took precedence over that.
Then I decided to do the podcast.
Yeah.
So I was like, we were talking about when we were going to pick up our taxes, and he was like, I said something, and he said copy, which prompted me to say, "Why are you talking to me in your work voice?" And he said, "It's been a day."
Okay.
So
yeah, I do love though, like how anybody who knows their coworker well enough is like so obvious that they're talking to their significant other. Their voice changes, the register's a little bit different. They get like weirdly casual compared to talking to anybody else. Yeah.
I noticed that when I'm like talking to a client, my voice is much higher.
Yeah, I think that's normal because like a higher voice sounds more peppy and excited, and like I noticed it with everybody, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also, how they say to have a smile in your voice.
Oh, yes.
So
smile while you're talking to the
I
customer.
do. I often smile.
That's my favorite thing, though, because like when you have a customer who's pissing you off, I can always tell because your voice gets like you become so much quote unquote nicer. Mm-hmm. I think it's so funny. I think yes, absolutely, we can help you with that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to send somebody out. And then Austin calls me 10 minutes later. I'm mad at you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny because everybody always assumes that I'm this. I guess it's because the woman in power in the room or whatever, that I'm some sort of like terrible hard ass with my husband. And that I control everything. So like it is not a part of our normal conversation at the end of the conversation to say I love you, which doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean I don't love my husband or whatever. But Mike loves to make fun of me. And every time I'll like hang up with my husband, whose name is Daniel, I'll be like, I love you.
I love you.
Because I've heard him on the phone. He says it every time. And I'm just like, all right, you do you.
I also say it every time.
Yeah. But it's just like, okay, let's talk about this. So like, why do you say I love you every time?
I gotta tell you, I say it to most people that I like in my personal life when I hang up the phone.
Okay.
Like, okay, love you, bye.
All right.
It's just
part of what you...
It's just who I am.
Did your family do that?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it's probably like a childhood trauma response.
Like, nobody ever said I love you.
I mean, I have to like force my dad. Now. I'll be like he'll be getting started. I'll be like, I love you. Like it's so aggressive.
Yeah, I don't do it because I'm gonna get lambasted for this, but like
it's a good word, lambasted. Can we put
actually
the
pronounced
definition
it
of
incorrectly? Lambasted is the correct pronunciation. It means word of the day, which is a common,
put it up on the screen, Ronick.
a common thing here at Rojas Roofing. Brenna uses a new vocabulary word, and it becomes the word of the day. Anyways, yeah, I don't like to say it because I kind of feel like it almost cheapens it.
Ooh.
Yeah, a little bit. It's like, well, if it's just a part of my routine to tell you that I love you, like it doesn't have the same weight in my opinion as like, oh, I'm like spontaneously telling you that I love you because that's how I'm feeling at this time. That's how I do it.
That's fair. I tell people I love them all the time. Like I just like walk around being like, I love you, but you're driving me crazy.
Yeah. But that's like I'm gonna insult you, but I like you as a person.
Comment.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, no, I'm heavy on the I love yous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I'm sure people in your life are like appreciate that. I get a little bit weird when, and maybe this is a part of my childhood response also. Like people telling me they love me, I'm like, that's a lot of pressure.
No, that's when I was dating my husband, I was the first person to say I love you.
Yeah. Oh, I have a good story about this in regards to like what we said to each other for our first I love you. This is a pretty good one actually. So as you know, in my former life, I was involved in the world of linguistics. That's my undergraduate degree. In language and linguistics, and that was also my husband's first degree was in linguistics. And I was like, I told him in Chinese Mandarin, I love you. And he's like, I think I said something like, oh, I learned this like new phrase in Chinese. And he's like, what is it? And so I told him, and he goes, well, what does it mean? And I was like, well, it means like you're really cool or something.
Oh, Brenna.
Something like that, I know, right? And then, I don't know, it was like a handful of minutes later. And I was like, well, actually, that's not what it means. And he's like, I know it. I thought that's what it meant. It's like, I think.
That's so sweet,
I think he actually was the one who said it in English first, now that I'm remembering. He was like, well, like a couple minutes later, he's like, well, there's something I want to tell you. And then like he said that. And I was like, well, haha, you already told me because you said it in Mandarin. Such a dorky.
Mandarin.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I could go on and on about my whirlwind relationship.
Yeah, yours is a fun story. We'll have to tell that sometime.
Yeah. Okay. So today's topic is you get what you pay for.
Yes.
Which I think is an important topic because I picked this topic because, hang on, I think I have to burp. I'm at like the bottom of my water bottles. There's a lot of air. Anyway, okay. I picked this topic because, like I said in the last episode, we're coming up on storm season, which means we could have some insurance claims, which we also talked about in the last episode. So picking a roofing company, you get what you pay for. But with that, I think it means, it's kind of like you're stuck in between a rock and a hard place.
Okay.
Because inexpensive, doesn't necessarily mean. Can you help me?
Yeah, sure.
I'm having difficulty articulating my thoughts.
Yeah. So I think when we were discussing this earlier, you're talking about the concept that like an inexpensive roofer, chances are fairly high that you're not going to get the quality experience that you would expect from a higher dollar situation.
There you go. That's what I'm trying to say.
So maybe you're not going to get as good a customer service. Maybe you're not going to have somebody who understands insurance claims as well or is willing to work with your insurance claim process as a larger company that has, is not as concerned with the payout or something like that. Maybe they don't have as much experience. There's a whole bunch of things that could go into why that price is cheaper.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to economies of scale, which is this whole concept that like as you have a larger volume, you can charge the customer less and therefore get more business. This is the same concept as like Walmart, right?
Yeah.
So Walmart has a giant economy of scale. They get to dictate the price for all kinds of products because they purchase so many. They have the economy of scale. So they can, charge the cheapest price and get the most number of customers, or they can increase the price because they get to do like price fixing or whatever. So if you live in a smaller town, there might be a little bit of price fixing going on where all the contractors get together and they're like, this is the cheapest we're going to go. This benefits all of us. A little bit of a, what is it called? Monopoly going on there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just saying that could happen.
Yeah.
So inexpensive maybe means that you're not going to get as much customer service. You're maybe not going to get particularly like the ability to do electronic invoicing or things like that cost more money for the company to offer to customers, that convenience factor.
Yeah.
You might get lucky and you might get an amazing roofer who's just starting out and everything's awesome and they just don't have a lot of overhead yet.
Yeah.
You never really know. On that same token, it's kind of like a luxury brand, right? Everybody thinks like, oh, well, they used to. I think all these like luxury brands are getting a little outed these days.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, like a Gucci product or whatever, or like a Porsche or I don't know, luxury stuff.
Yeah.
They used to be assumed that product was going to have the highest quality, whereas that's not always the case.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about a particular roofer, which we will not name, who is known to massively upcharge on the price of a roof. I've seen it. I've physically seen it. So we used to work with this contractor as a subcontractor.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yes.
I'm on the same page now.
And we would see their paperwork and we saw the size of those little tiny roofs they were doing. And these were scenarios where the customer probably should have paid $5,000 for their roof. And they were being charged like $20,000. Jeez. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. And it's because they could, because they were offering financing and they had that really hard sales tactics. And yeah, it was quite predatory. So that could also happen where like, just because it's more expensive, maybe you're just paying for, that executive's yacht or something.
Yeah, which is kind of what I meant when I was saying you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because how do you go about finding a roofer that works best for you? And, dealing with a salesperson can be kind of difficult and kind of scary and overwhelming. So I think it's important that you find a salesperson that vibes with you.
Absolutely. Like that's the key for sure, Z's. And I would never buy, well, my sales reps are going to hate this. Personally, I would never buy on the first interaction with a roofer. Unless you've already met with a bunch of roofers and you kind of got the vibe check and then you meet with somebody and you're like, this is the one, like, sure, go with your gut in that regard.
Yeah.
But like, you have to kind of feel out somebody's customer service. And if you have more than one interaction, you'll be able to see like, okay, this is what this is going to go like. Because generally speaking, if that sales rep is attentive in your initial meeting and then continues to do your follow-ups and is like, a pleasant person to work with, then you're going to have that same experience throughout the entire process.
Yeah.
So that's why I wouldn't buy first day. But
in that same thought, I think that it's really important to get more than one estimate.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about like high pressure sales.
Yeah.
Get 3 estimates.
Yeah. Unless you know a ton about the topic.
Yeah.
Or you've done a bunch of online research or I don't know, you're just like a really busy person. I don't know. But like, I would also agree that it's totally cool for you to, but just don't, as we said in the last episode, don't invite 2 roofers at the same time.
Yes, that is not fun for anybody. It is quite awkward.
Yeah, and honestly, don't stack them back to back either.
Yeah.
Like you're going to get fatigued.
Yeah, you're going to get overloaded.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information.
There's a lot of information.
And the likelihood that it's going to be the same information, it's the same roof.
Well, that's what you would think, but in reality, it depends on exactly the angle that the sales rep is going
That's
for,
true.
the
That's
exact
true.
shingle that you're being sold. Like, it's kind of a lot
I
involved.
mean, there is a lot involved, and I agree. But like the measurements in theory should be the same.
True. In theory, they should be the same because it is the same roof. Yeah.
So,
Silence.
So yeah, I think that it's important to meet with a few different people, get a few different estimates. And just because,
Well, I'm going to talk personally on this.
Tell me.
Because as you know, my house project that was supposed to just be a carpet has turned into a massive renovation. I was trying to knock out a wall in order to get rid of a closet to finish a carpeting project.
Sure.
And when we knocked it out, we discovered that there was like this giant crack in the wall. I won't get into how poorly built my house was.
On this episode, I do have that planned, though.
Well, great. I'm glad I'm on topic without even realizing it. Yeah. So anyways, my house is poorly built. It was cheap. That's why I bought it years ago. And so we discovered we had I have like a concrete floor. This is going to make me sound like I live in like a ramshackle house.
Hovel.
Yeah. It's a nicest house. I said nice-ish, not nice. Anyway, so
It's in a nice area.
It's in a nice area, yeah. So it has like a crack. It has cracks in the floor. We've always known that. But then when we tore out some drywall, we discovered that the walls also have cracks. And then we were like, oh no, is this a foundation problem? Blah, blah, blah. So the first company that I called out to deal with any of this was some foundation companies, right? Because I got to know, is this solidly built? Because I'm not doing any more renovations until I determine that.
Yeah.
So the very first company that comes out is far more corporate-y, which doesn't necessarily, again, mean that they're going to be bad.
Yeah.
It was just, you could tell that there was a corporate stamp on it. Mm-hmm. And they did a really thorough inspection. I really do believe what they told me, but their initial inspection to fix the entirety of the house, like all around, all four sides of it, essentially, $50,000. And I was like, tear the whole thing down, man. Let's start again. I told you it's weird.
I told you it's weird.
So I was like, I'm not spending $50,000. So initially I was like, that's a lot to process. Okay. Thank you for coming out and like ruining my day.
And ruining my day.
So the next guy that comes out is sort of like a mid-level in terms of corporate. Like I can tell that there's some features associated with customer service, like automated texts and, that kind of thing. Which, as a person who works in that industry, I can spot that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So good interaction. Also, he told me about a couple of things that the other company did not inform me about, and his bid was $30,000. So that is significantly lower, right? Third company comes out. I have no confirmation texts, no confirmation emails, no confirmation calls. I'm not even sure they're coming. But this was referred to me by a friend who had work done by this company. So I was like, all right, that referral goes a long way. I'll tell you what. Mm-hmm. So I called the company at the hour this guy was supposed to show up. And I was like, are you coming? I haven't heard anything. And the office woman was like, oh yeah, it's an hour window. So he could be there anytime. And I was like, okay, thanks for telling me now. He was supposed to be there between 10 and 11. At 11:01, he calls. And he's like, I'm here. And I was like, oh, great. You're not within your window, but fine. We'll give you the feedback.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Everything about this company was far less refined. But I ended up like fully trusting his answer because his solution was you need to get all of this water that's pooling around your house, which the prior two companies had mentioned to me. He's like, that's step number 1, $4,000. And I was like, yes.
That's it.
But not only that, like we had to have a structural engineer out too because there's lots involved. The structural engineer corroborated what that guy had said as the first step is to remove all of this water because your house the land around it is graded wrong. So it's all pooling in towards your house, which is causing your foundation to crack. If after a year you're still having this problem, okay, then let's bring in the big guns and like the piers and whatever they do to like jack up your foundation. But like, why are you starting with the most expensive option when you're not even solving what's causing it, the root cause of the problem? So you could experience that within the roofing industry too. Like you just never really know. But I will say one thing that made me trust this company outside of the referral was the fact that the company's been in business for a pretty long time. which the statistics on roofing companies is quite interesting. Are you familiar with how long roofing companies last?
You're so good at this. Let's just start there. So I think you told me 5 years.
Yeah. So a commonly reported statistic that I've seen in multiple places says that 85% of roofing companies fail within the first 2 years, which is like the success rate of a restaurant, basically. And 96% of them fail within the first 5 years.
What is the percentage of ex-Rojas Roofing employees that have their own roofing company?
Yes, and that's part of the reason that so many of them fail. So it's like, the question is like, why are so many of them failing?
Yeah.
But the real question is, why are so many of them being started in the first place?
Yeah.
So what I've noticed in this industry is that it's really common for like someone to start a roofing company thinking that it's not going to be that hard. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, never mind, this is ruining my life.
This is actually very hard.
Yeah. And the reason is like, I mean, the barrier to entry for any entrepreneur can be, you know, it's hard to start a business, right?
Yeah.
But like, if you're selling, let's just say you're selling like, I don't know, like dresses that you're hand making or something.
Sure.
Okay. You're providing all the labor and you can only sell the dress for like, let's say $200 because it's handmade.
Yeah.
Okay. That profit margin's fairly low, all things considered, and it's taking all your personal hours to make it.
Yeah.
So the barrier to entry, like to actually make money off of that hobby that you turned into a career, not very likely. Whereas in roofing, like this is a high dollar project. So, and it's a need, not a want.
I was just about to say that. And I was like, it's a product that nobody wants to buy.
Yeah, nobody wants a roof, but they have to get one.
Yeah.
And so you're working with a high dollar situation that somebody has to do. And so therefore, it's easy to sell a smaller number of roofs and still make for an individual, one person, a decent salary.
Yeah.
But once you start to grow that company, well, now you've got all these different people that you have to pay their salaries. And then it becomes far more complicated because you have to have training and procedures and all these other things that make a company run.
Yeah.
And people just can't keep up. And I think that's why so many of them close after a certain period of time. So when you're when you hear that information, do you agree? Do you think that like that's...
Yeah, I think that it seems really easy. I was talking to my brother-in-law because he wants a roof for his garage.
Okay.
But it's not like a super nice garage. It's not anything
fancy. So he wants the bare bones.
He wants the bare bones. Does he want to pay a full roofing company to do it? No. And I was like, and I even said, I was like, I mean, it's really not that, like, it's not that difficult. Which it is. It's not that it's, not an acquired skill, but to do his small roof, and he was like, yeah, I could probably do it.
Yeah, and I think, like, the skill comes in when you're able to do it incredibly quickly, when you're able to do it safely, when you're able to do different kinds of roofing.
Yeah.
And when you're able to like deal with like very steep roof situations.
Yeah.
If we're talking about a small garage that's not even that steep and like most people who weren't afraid of heights could comfortably walk on it, I would agree with you that like, and you're not even worried about your personal possessions as much, right? Because it's a garage.
It's a garage. My point being is that this is probably the same thought process that a lot of new roofing companies have. Like,
how hard could it be?
I threw a roof on my garage in a weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
No big deal. I should do this for money.
Yeah.
You go to Menards and you get shingles for whatever it is a square.
It's also really common for sales reps to like become disillusioned with their bosses for a variety of reasons. It's not always just a sales rep's ego. Like that definitely plays.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes it's the sales rep's ego. Like, oh, I can do it better. Like, they're sales reps, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's the owners of the roofing companies are just really shady people. And we hear a lot of stories from people who've worked at other roofing companies who have had just really toxic work environments, had money stolen from them, been promised things that they never got. I mean, we've heard really bad, lots and lots of bad stuff. And a lot of people become disillusioned working in the roofing industry as a result of all of that.
Yeah.
So some people who have a big enough ego combined with potentially disillusionment are like, I can do it better. Avril Lavigne style.
What I've noticed, which is kind of insane, is that no matter how different these roofing companies are, they're also kind of the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is... I never expected to enjoy working in roofing and like learn so much about roofing when I came into this.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But now that I'm in it, I can like spot these things. Like, you know, I had a friend who needed a roof. It was a whole ordeal. And they went with a different roofing company, which is fine. Just fine. We're fine over here.
No, legitimately, she's fine. Friend, don't worry about it.
We're fine. We're fine. And but I looked up the roofing company they went with, and this roofing company is not necessarily similar to us, but they are similar to us.
Yeah.
Which is like,
Yeah.
why didn't you choose us?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like if you go buy something at Target versus you buy something at Meijer versus you buy something at
Yeah. Either way, you're going to buy it.
Kmart. Is there a Kmart around anymore?
No, I wish there was.
I heard that they have Kmarts in Australia.
Oh, yes. I saw that on TikTok.
Yeah. What's up with that? Okay, we're getting really off
Sorry.
topic here, but like
So I got this weird email today.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to tell you about it. The subject line was exit.
Exit.
And it was just like a short maybe sentence.
Okay.
And it was like, it was like, are you interested in selling Rojas Roofing?
Okay.
Yeah. And then it was just like signed. First of all, I get all these emails for Romero.
Romero?
Yeah.
Romero.
Yeah. So it was like, hi, Romero. Are you interested in selling Rojas Roofing?
No one in Rojas Roofing is named Romero.
No.
Okay.
It was so casual. Let me know.
Let me know if you want to start your company.
Yeah. So how often are roofing companies getting bought out like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's another reason why roofing companies like quote unquote fail is that the private equity space or the space in which larger companies come in and acquire other companies is like kind of booming in the roofing industry. And it has for the last handful of years become like a bigger thing. It's kind of like a mom and pop store. This is a mom and pop business. It gets large enough that it attracts the eye of private investment, and then they want to acquire the business.
Yeah.
So many of those companies, you wouldn't even know that they're owned or mostly owned by a corporate entity because they keep their logo.
Yeah.
They keep their quote unquote localness in order to continue to have those customers and have that look. But a lot of the larger roofing companies are owned by someone else. They're no longer owned by the original person that maybe you're seeing as associated with that company, or at least they're not fully owned by that person anymore. So it's really common for them to be bought out.
Which is something that I really like about working for Rojas Roofing is that like I have access to the owners.
That's true.
Which
Customers do too.
the customers do too. The owner, one of the owners is out there more than you think.
Yeah. He's
Sneaky little guy. But I'm saying that like, should we need an owner?
yeah.
Then we have that. And that's a really nice.
It's way easier to just be able to like deal with situations. You can pivot a lot faster. You can provide that level of customer service or, fix that person's plant that you messed up or, there's not as many like barriers to worrying about the profit line and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some of the ways you can kind of like guess that maybe a company is more corporate owned, although this is not a guarantee because Rojas Roofing looks real professional too, if I do say so myself. But like how flashy the logos are, that often is a little bit of an indicator. Like the color scheme and the branding and like there's somebody in there who knows what they're doing. So this is not 100% like.
I was gonna say, I don't think that's fair, because what if they just have a Brenna? Not that anybody could ever replicate our Brenna, but like, you know.
Well, like there is a local company that like I'm not sure if this corresponded with their buyout or not, but like if you look back at their history and their old logos, you're like, oh, that looks like it was made on Photoshop in like 2010 or something. And like now their new look is like far more sleek and like they've got a slogan and you know, that kind of stuff. Okay. So to summarize, it's just like your Gucci bag. Is it worth what you paid for it? We're not entirely sure because you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for.